Thank you very much. Oh, I'm live now. Okay.
You can see where the heckles are going to come from, can't you? Of course, yeah.
That one, that one, that one, that one. Right, good? We good? Good. Okay, good afternoon everyone. Thanks for joining us today. So my name's Ogilvie. I'm here to host a panel discussion for a pool plant training panel. So I'm pleased for you all to join us here. So hopefully we're going to try and have a look at the workforce in terms of evolving their skills and their technical ability in the plant room, to think about sort of some of the challenges that we're dealing with today as far as the organisation, operational risk, the pressures. I'd also add probably increasing in new technologies that they're having to deal with all the time as well, and making it sure it's sort of compliance with just engineers and also companies as well, to try and keep for what I would probably say is really we just want healthy swimming pools, I think, or healthy recreational water would be my key part. So apparently, and I'm using this very loosely, they brought together what they're thinking is sort of the best of the best from the panel here. So yeah. Well, yes, yeah, we had to get rid of one, so that's what we've done, which I'll get them to do an introduction in a short second, but hopefully this can help, and there'll be a bit of time for Q&A at the end, but by all means, I just want to give you a quick introduction of each other.
Yeah, hi, I'm Chris Bateman. I'm from the STA. I'm the pool plant consultant, so doing all the things with the pool plant qualifications and attending PWTAG meetings and everything and to do with pool plant, really. So yeah, that's me.
Thank you, Chris.
Hi, my name is Daniel Ekema. I'm the program leader for pool plant at the Institute of Swimming. So my role is essentially developing the pool plant courses for the Institute of Swimming in line with RLSS specification, meeting the PWTAG standard, attending PWTAG training forums, and basically trying to help the industry improve ultimately. That's me.
Thanks, Dan.
Afternoon, everybody. I'm Mike Shuff. Up on there, I'm down as two people. I'm Palm Academy and the PWTAG Vice Chair. The discussion will be obviously from Palm Academy as the training organisation. If I'm going to say the role of PWTAG though, PWTAG doesn't deliver any training. PWTAG writes the syllabus and approves accredited training organisations for them to deliver. So if it's the detail of training, I'll be answering that on behalf of my own training company, not on behalf of PWTAG. PWTAG just sets the syllabus and lets people go off.
Cheers, thank you guys. So I'm just going to start with some questions. I'll start with you, Dan. So currently from your work with the Institute of Swimming, what would you say are the most common skill gaps you see for pool operators today, and how is modern operator training sort of evolving in these gaps as far as efficiency?
So from my point of view, I find that people just don't get the frequency of time in the plant rooms ultimately to start with. We have people who are attending courses that are duty managers, etc., that maybe don't go into the plant rooms after they've done that course. Might be down to the policies of the company, might be down to their lack of confidence potentially. But that is probably one of the main areas that I foresee that people need to be supported on, developed on, and the companies need to kind of work towards making sure they have that exposure essentially to the plant rooms. One of the things that I kind of wanted to mention as well was, in line with the lifeguard qualification, they train monthly. We don't have that as part of pool plant. It's all about the renewal period. At the end of that 3 or 5 years, you do your renewal, and then those people may not go in the plant room ever again until it comes to renewal again. So that's somewhere I feel that operators could maybe develop and give themselves protection against any issues that happen. But yeah, ultimately down to that exposure to the plant room and helping them reinforce their knowledge, their skills, to prevent incidents ultimately and to make sure the operations run smoothly. Now in terms of future technologies, I think it was, helping things improve, sort of moving forwards, I suppose ultimately that comes down to the different models of delivery as well, which I know these two will probably sort of talk about as well, but face-to-face, blended, virtual sessions, e-learning potentially, but making sure it suits the person that is on that course. It's very easy for an operator to just put someone on the course that maybe isn't suited to that delivery method. They won't get as much out of it, and maybe they need to go on face-to-face, so they have that contact with the tutor in that sort of setting, rather than e-learning potentially. But it's down to how those individuals learn ultimately, and adapting to those ways of learning, I think, is how will help improve the industry moving forwards.
Thank you, Dan. So, Chris, sort of moving on from that a little bit, so how would you say the STA is adapting to the pool operator training to better support compliance, water quality, and the day-to-day management of the sort of the challenge which is running a leisure centre, shall we say?
It has changed over the years as well, isn't it? It's becoming more challenging. But I think from an STA perspective, we're talking to more employers and getting their feedback and being part of the compliance with PWTAG and things like that as well. So we've got PWTAG guidelines, we've got the PWTAG pool water swimming pool book, sorry. We've got the PWTAG code of practice. All these guidelines are out there. So embedding that in the qualification is really, really important. But speaking to these employers, they want a qualification fit for purpose. And at the current moment in time, SimSPA are looking at the professional standards, and they're looking at what do employers want in these qualifications. So we're looking at all these type of things, and myself and PWTAG members up here with me at the moment have been at these meetings as well. So we're looking at what is in these qualifications, how can we make them more fit for purpose for the employers and for the pool plant operators that are actually in the plant rooms. So yeah, it's just making sure that we have all these guidelines, all these standards that need to be in the qualification are in there, and making sure that everyone is kind of trained in doing those as well. So yeah, that's about it really.
Thank you, Chris.
That's right.
So, Mike, I really would just want to draw on sort of practical experience, you know, thinking about the day-to-day running of a swimming pool, and also, well, thinking about how PWTAG might be involved in the practicality part. But what would you say is the thing that you think is most needs to change, so to speak? And also, how does PAM make training real? How do they make it consistent?
Okay. These two guys have only spoken for a few. Have I got the rest of the afternoon all to myself? Right. You lucky people. Okay. Dan mentioned blended training. Yeah, we believe in it, but we do believe in terms of plant operation that the majority of training should be hands-on in a plant room, etc. I will say no more about that, otherwise it's going to become like a technology battle between us. Okay? That's the one thing. What needs to be changed? Okay, let's address the elephant in the room. The three of us in front of you at the moment, we deliver training. Training is not the same as competence. We will spend 1, 2, 3 days, whatever it might be, with a group of people going through how to operate their pool in as full a way as we possibly can. After 3 days, is that numpty, is that young person that only started with you last week and possibly hadn't even been in the plant room yet, is that person competent? Okay. Now, the only way that person becomes competent is by getting in the plant room and doing it. Now, the plant room is an expensive and also a very dangerous place. So that doing it should be under supervision. What needs to change? If an employer wants his staff to be competent, he needs to be able to make time available to accompany that person, let them follow an observation, observe them doing it. Now that, depending on the shift patterns that all these guys work, that could take anything from a week to 6 months. Okay? That is one thing that's missing. We all know, I'm looking at these guys here, and I'm probably looking at most of you out there as well. You know that, does the employer require a competent person, or does the employer want somebody with a nice shiny certificate so they can say when they tender for a contract, all our staff are properly qualified? Yeah, they're qualified. They've done a 3-day course. Okay? What happens if that person, after 3 days, never goes near the plant room for another 6 months? Okay? So what's got to change, first of all, from the employer point of view, is the employer has to determine competence. We'll train them. We'll give them all the answers. We'll give them a nice big fat book with most of the answers in anyway, afterwards. But the only way they become competent is by the employer committing to them. What about the employee? And again, I'll look to these guys on the right and a few more in the room. I'm sure you've seen these. How on earth these days do you get a young person excited? Now, behave yourselves. I'm talking about working in the plant room. How many times do you find that you'll get a call, you'll get a question, the pH has gone low, you told me I've got to put this in, how do I do that? They can't even be bothered to find out how to do it. Okay, now is that down to us as trainers, or is that down to the employer to work with these people and show them? Getting kids excited these days is difficult. Now, is that the fault of the employer not paying them their worth? Yes. Is that the fault of the training organization not exciting them with their training? Absolutely not. Make your head go that way. That's it, no. Okay. Is it a combination of all these? Probably. But let's face it, at the moment, you know, sort of employment in the leisure industry has changed. It's changed immensely. 120 years ago when I started, it was a given that you would spend a certain, with me it was 2 years. You spend 2 years doing one job learning it, you move on to another 2 years, you move on to another 2 years. And that meant sometimes moving around the country, which I did. You can't do that anymore. So you've probably got, and Chris, you'll probably know this certainly from Wales, you have a lot of people who are very capable, well-trained, very competent, but can't move up the scale because nobody moves out. You wait for somebody to die before you can move up the scale. And so that can be demoralizing. What's the answer to that? That bit I don't know. But what I do know is one of the issues that has to be addressed is how we work with these new operators, we say, once they get back into the workplace.
Yeah, that's fair. Very good. So I'm going to throw you a bit of a curveball now, guys, because things have changed. Yeah. Okay. So I'm going to say, as an open question to all three of you, and it'd be good to have an opinion for all three of you. What do you think are some of the technical misunderstandings as far as from the engineering side to the operator side, where maybe the message doesn't quite get through between the company who's maintaining the system to the people who are operating the system? Well, Dan's got the mic, so let's go with Dan first.
For me, it initially comes down to synchronization of standards, I suppose. Making sure that we're all reading from the same hymn book, same stats, same guides and thresholds, essentially. As an operator, I found that the engineers that would come to my site were telling me things that actually didn't meet the standards of PWTAG or other understandings that I had. So that was a massive clash. And if I didn't know better, then I would be following the standards that they told me. And that's not to say that all engineers are like that. There's probably one or two that maybe are in that sort of ilk. But the majority hopefully would be following the right standards, essentially. Ultimately, the PWTAG guidance is done for a reason. It's done based on science. It's done to help pools operate more efficiently and essentially to make it safer for swimmers and obviously the staff. So yeah, that alignment of standards is probably where I would go.
Thanks, Dan. Chris, what would you say to?
I was just going to say exactly the same thing. I've seen many pool contractors say you only need to use a DPD number 1 tablet, no number 3. And I'm just thinking, why would you be telling these customers to only test half the tests that they need to do? So I think that the standards do need to kind of align and everyone follow those same standards. Like you said, PWTAG make those standards and everyone should be singing off the same hymn sheet, really. Yeah.
Thanks, Chris. Mike?
What hasn't been said before? I think there is some misunderstanding as well. If I give you just one example, and I'm pretty sure there will be people in this room that will resonate with this. In a typical hypochlorite dose pool, combined chlorine should be no more than 1 milligram per litre. I don't know about you guys, but we are now getting people said, but combined chlorine too low, we got UV, it's only 0.1, how do I get it up to 1 milligram per litre? Now, is that, and that is, has anybody heard of that before? Yeah, okay. So it almost transpires that 1 milligram per litre is the target. It's your fault, is it?
Yeah, I got a phone call the next day. What's happened to our combined chlorine?
Well, did you tell them how to get it up to 1 milligram per litre?
Yes,
Right. That's right. Get a lot of dirty people and turn off the circulation. He'll come up. But now, is that the fault of the training? Is that the fault of the engineering, the installation? Is that the fault of the manager or the technical manager not keeping an eye on these people? So there's a lot of misnomers, okay? Biggest one during and straight after COVID when pH level was dropped. Any of you remember 7.2 to 7.6? Oh my God. All right. They're all children here, aren't they? Okay, 7 to 7.4. I had people phoning me during COVID when we were all lockdown. What the hell do you think you're doing, dropping it from 7 to 7.4? You are going to waive our warranty on our equipment. To which my answer was, you're installing equipment that's going to be damaged by neutral water. Do you want to look at that again? So there's a lot of this misconception. Overall, should we say, is it more often than not the reluctance to change? Are we just reluctant to acknowledge change? Ben over here, nodding like a donkey over here. Yeah. And so, yes, if you want change, you've got to explain why the change and what the implications are of either changing or not changing. Now, okay, you can do that on a training course, but surely that should come down not just to trainers, but to other people as well, not least of which is the manager. We're not going to tell you to drop the UV, drop the combined chlorine down to 0. We're going to tell you why it should be dropped down to 0, so that when it does drop down, then you're not going to panic. Luckily, I can't hear you.
Have you found over the decades that the understanding at the management level has faded?
Over the decades, how rude. Absolutely. Has it? Can I answer this?
Yeah, no, go for it.
All right.
What I was going to say, it's not decades, it's the effects of chlorine on skin. But no, sorry, go on, Mike.
Yeah. Has it degraded? I'm not sure, Sean. Has it changed? Absolutely. Okay. Can anybody remember here when they were working at a pool, their manager, the pool manager, was also well experienced in the operation of pool plant? Okay. Do any of you know where the manager these days is well versed in the operation of pool plant, or are they better off looking at the bottom of an account sheet? Oh, absolutely. Couldn't agree with you more.
Yeah. That's fine. It's fine. Don't give Debs a mic.
I agree entirely with you. Yeah, the question was,
Mike.
Has management quality degraded? All right. Has the management quality degraded, or has it changed? I don't think it's degraded. I think it's changed. Yeah. Don't know whether.
So I'm going to put them on the spot now. Yeah, Dan's got the mic, so you can go first. So what's the one improvement you think the whole industry should take over the next 2 years as far as pool plant training? It's supposed to be short and sharp and snappy. Come on, Dan. Come on. Come on.
Mike's not.
You didn't stop me.
That's true. You did well. One improvement. I suppose openness to change and to take on new information is probably the main thing. I mean, kind of going back to the things I've observed in being operational, but also as part of my role in the Institute of Swimming, in terms of people not looking for the information. So there's resources out there that are free, that are accessible, that people can easily find, yet they don't look for it to be able to work out their issues and problems. They are either ask someone else, maybe the wrong person, or they don't ask at all.
Okay.
So that openness to change and to find the information is probably the key driver for me for the industry to change.
Okay. Go on, Chris. What I'm going to say then, same thing. One thing you think about change as far as pool plant training over the next couple of years?
Safety. I think safety needs to be prioritised massively. There's been too many chemical incidents. There's been too many untrained staff dealing with chemicals and doing pool tests. I think safety needs a massive increase and to minimise all these chemical incidents that we've been having. There's been talks today from the Chemical Business Association talking about things like this. So yeah, I think safety is one of the biggest priorities the industry needs.
So Mike, same question. The one thing you'd change over the next couple of years as far as pool plant training?
Oh, get everybody signed up as members of PWTAG. No, seriously, I agree entirely with Chris. Because things have changed, the person operating the pool, the techie man, what level of supervision do they have? Or are they just left to go and run and do things on their own? The industry itself is short-staffed. We don't have enough people, so the people in the industry tending to rush more. Okay, and if your job is to go and fill up a day tank over there, and you're working over there, you've got to rush over. I bet you don't put your PPE on, okay? And that's how accidents happen. So Chris is absolutely right. It's the safety, but safety comes, I'm afraid, with supervision, on observation, and everything else that we talked about.
Mike, I'm going to stick with you. Let's stay with you. Let's mix the format up a little bit. So, Mike, what would you say as far as the operators being able to work more closely with national standards in swimming pools, that is?
Probably the whole issue about communication. The Pool Water Treatment Advisory Group offers those standards. All of us here deliver those standards during training. But PWTAG is probably one of the world's best kept secrets. Even now, who are PWTAG? Oh, we actually set the standards. If you don't like the standards, come and talk to us, but don't just ignore them. And I think it's getting those standards down at whatever level is necessary for the person that's operating the pool. Let's forget job titles, but who is actually the guy who is down there handling chemicals, carrying out a backwash, everything else? Does he or she, that's the only two I got these days, isn't it? He or she, do they actually know what those standards are?
Okay.
Okay.
Go on, Dan. Same question, sort of operators and the national standards.
I mean, ultimately, it comes down to everything that Mike has said, really. They need to be recognised in PWTAG, the guidance that is out there and what it's there for, ultimately. But they need to be passing that down through the chains to the staff that are on the ground level. The staff at the ground level are there to do a job. They want to do a job because that's why they're there. But they need the information, they need the access, they need to be able to get the exposure, not in obviously a hazardous way, but exposure to the environments of the plant room, the technology, the equipment, but also the training, and the checks that ensure that they are up to date, that they are competent for that task that they're going to be undertaking. Without those checks, we're leading towards a crisis ultimately in terms of all the pool plant incidents that Chris mentioned, which ultimately comes down to like the budgets that you said about obviously the way that working's changing, but also with COVID a lot of staff moved on. Those engineers are not there to pass on that information anymore, so there is a knowledge gap on that basis. Hopefully we're picking up through training, obviously as people come through, but it also comes down to the motivation of those people that are coming through and what they want to achieve. Some of them are there just because they've been put on those courses. And it's about us as trainers need to then put it in a way that excites them and motivates them to learn and understand. That comes down to the delivery methods, delivery styles, using PowerPoints, using videos, using interactive tasks that get those people engaged in different ways. And that's one of the ways that we'll kind of combat that moving forwards. But it does come down to the operators being open and sharing that information ultimately and giving access, not giving access because it's free access anyway to the PWTAG's guidance and everything. It's easily available, but using up-to-date stuff as well. So making sure they're not just downloading a copy and printing it off, putting it in a folder, it's referring people to the live document on the website constantly.
So Chris, because Dan spoke a lot.
Is there much more to say?
Well, maybe not. So as far as the operator's concerned and sort of strengthening national standards or complying with, what would you say?
I suppose just reiterating what they said, following the PWTAG guidelines, but I think it all goes back to what we were saying earlier about site-specific training. You might do a pool plant operator course at one site, but then go back to your site, and every system that you've got there is completely different. So you need that site-specific training at your site, and that's down to the employer to do that. But yeah, other than that, I don't think it's much more I can add.
Chris,
sorry, yeah.
Ready for this? This is the last quick fire round before we open up to the audience. I'm going to ask the question, what could the operator walk away with is the one key principle of good pool plant operation? What would it be? What would be the one key thing that's your key message after delivering the course for the STA? What would be that key thing you're going to take away?
I've got two, but I'll give you one. Is good pool water quality control. So maintaining your chlorine levels, your pH levels, alkalinity, and all those type of things at the correct level. So following the PWTAG guidance and making sure that your pool is maintained at those correct levels, really, yeah.
Chris, we're all curious now. What caught second place?
Chemicals.
Okay,
yeah.
fine.
Yeah.
Dan?
I won't go on.
I suppose I've kind of repeated that drum a few times, but the access to the information and those checks on competency. Mike said earlier, just because they've done a course and they've got a certificate doesn't mean they're competent in that plant room. They need to have that site-specific information and training, and those checks on training as well. Don't just assume that someone's been trained and they're then competent. They need to keep checking and obviously monitoring. So that's for me, that one.
And finally, Mike, your one key question, would you say, as far as walking away as the good principle after you've delivered a course with PAM Academy?
I think the one key point to come from it is to instill in the candidates there the ability and the excitement to ask questions, not necessarily just of the trainers. They can contact us all the time once they've been, but to ask their employer, how do I do this? What does that do? And all that leads to competence, building up their competence. There does seem to be a gap, in my view, only in my view, there does seem to be a gap these days between the person at the very top, the pool manager, and the person operating the pool. There seems to be a gap, and it's a communication gap as much as anything. If you don't encourage your people to ask questions, you assume that they know everything. Okay? And that can be dangerous sometimes, assuming that they know everything, and that's how accidents happen.
Can I just follow on from Mike's a little bit?
You're only allowed one answer there, Dan. No,
Sorry,
go on,
please.
sorry, mate.
So just following on from what Mike said there, one thing that's been quite prominent for me in some sites across the industry is that some of them don't let their staff ask those questions, and they actually discourage it at times. They also reduce the amount of information that some of those staff have or have access to. That is really dangerous. That's when chemical incidents are going to happen. That's when problems are going to be caused in the plant rooms. And that's where I've said earlier about operators need to be more open to allowing their staff to learn the information, find out, practice it, and obviously reteach. So openness to that, I think, is really key, really.
Okay, thank you, Dan. So I'm just going to open to the floor for any sort of panel questions if anyone wants. Sorry, 1 second. Let me just grab this mic for you. Sorry, we just can't pick you up with the line.
Hi there, I'm Gillian. Regard to private swim schools that operate out of private pools, residential pools, there is a communication problem between teachers and swim school owners, between them and the companies that maintain the pools for the owners. So there tends to be, it's like a health and safety risk issue where there's like a wall between the company that maintains the property in being open with the flow of communication to the staff or the teachers. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. So and that causes a big problem in the industry.
So yeah, just to go on the first bit you mentioned, it's a residential property, so is that plant room and that swimming pool commercially graded? That's one thing to think about. The homeowner, I'm guessing, is hiring out his pool, so he should have business insurance and all those type of things. He should be the pool plant operator person that's trained with at least a 3-day course. There's lots of things to think about. if it's your swim school, I'm not sure if it is, but if it's your swim school, should your swimming teachers be trained in how to do a water test? Because it's your customers going in. So have you got that responsibility to your customers that are going in that pool that you're hiring? I run a swim school as well myself, and we test the pool at the pools we use, just to make sure it's safe for our customers to go into that pool. So it's lots of things to think about here. We could talk about this for hours on end. But I think the biggest thing is making sure that that homeowner has got commercially graded plant rooms with automatic dosing, meeting all the PWTAG guidelines and all those type of things. So yeah, that's going back to your pool contractors. So that owner should still be a pool plant operator. He's hiring out his swimming pool. He's the one that's operating it. The contractor's probably there once every month. Your staff are trained in pool water testing and things, right? Yeah. But yeah, I've seen it quite a lot where pools are being hired out, but they're not fully compliant, should we say? I don't know if you guys want to add anything on this, but yeah, it is a big issue in the industry, massively. Have you two got anything to add, or?
Anyone got any others? No. Questions? No?
I agree with everything you said.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. Are we done? Okay.
Standard of engineers out there.
Terrible, because you're one of them. Go on, ask the question.
So how many companies have engineers or technicians going around to do servicing of swimming pools, and they don't even know the PWTAG standards that are covered in a pool plant course?
Okay. I don't think you're going to like my view. Simply for the Institute of Swimming Pool Engineers that we work very closely with obviously focus on the engineering of a pool, the installation, the pipework, the pumping, etc. PWTAG is more focused on the operation of the pool when it's actually in place. From a PWTAG point of view, we're trying to work much closer. There's a lot of, can't remember the word I want, a lot more likelihood of working closer together with ISPE, which can only be a good thing, I think. At the moment, that isn't there. And it's no good saying, well, why not? You've been around for 40, 50 years. The fact of the matter is, it's not there at the moment, so it's no good looking backwards. I would just add one thing very, very quickly, hopefully about the domestic pool that's being hired out. Whether it's domestic or commercial, people using the pool only want two things from you, blue and warm. Long as it's blue, long as it's warm, they're usually happy. Okay? And the other thing is that when somebody builds a pool in their house, apart from building regs, they don't have to comply with anything. Once you start letting it out or renting it out for use, that's when you've got to start complying. And that's what trips a lot of people up there. That's when you say you get pools that are, if you like, poorly engineered. It was fine when it's only mum, dad, and the two kids, when they come back from their wintering in Dubai to use the pool for a fortnight, and then they go back to Dubai again. Yeah, you know, and that's it. And believe you me, ladies and gentlemen, there are pools around the country that are just like that.
I just want to try and summarise for today, because we're just over time. So really, to summarise, I'd say there's probably four key things I'd say probably comes out of the whole thing, which we'd say is definitely training's key for the whole thing. Competence and compliance, I'd say. Pick on and Chris is definitely safety, and just basically to be efficient and have effective swimming pools. But I'd like to thank the panellists for their time. Cheers, guys. Thank you. And obviously thank the audience as well. Thank you for coming.